outside's nice. I'm not gonna lie, but it's.
Totally. Yeah. Where are you at?
I'm in Newmarket. I'm in Newmarket, so
Oh, right on.
it was kind of funny when I realized. I'm sure I'll mention this, uh, but like when you're talking about the Stardust, I didn't. I remember this concert happening. I wasn't there, but I remember it happening because it's like 10 minutes from my house. I didn't realize it was at the Stardust, but I'm like, oh, I remember this taking place. So it was that added another, and ironically, and this has nothing to do with the film. I actually had been looking up what they had available because I'm like I should take my kids to the drive-in.
Right.
And then I
Yeah.
watched the film and I'm like, oh, this is the same place. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's funny how that worked out. Yeah, it was such a surprise too, like just hearing that it was gonna be in Newmarket or at the Stardust Drive-In Theater. We're like, oh, okay, like that's cool. Like in rural, like, Ontario. I mean, not too far from the cities, but it was just such a like surprise that like this rock show was gonna be coming out in the middle of nowhere essentially. Well, that's how it felt, I guess. Cause yeah.
That's okay to say to everybody that doesn't live in Newmarket. We're in the middle of nowhere, but everybody in Newmarket defends it. We're like, well, we're 20 minutes outside of Markham in Toronto, and people just say, no, it's the middle of nowhere. I'm like, oh, all right, fine. Um,
It's not too far. Like, I mean, I'm from Grand Bend. Like, my studio is in Grand Bend right now. Like, during the pandemic, I relocated from Toronto to Grand Bend,
mhm.
which also has like a drive-in movie theater. So I was like, oh, maybe the show will come out to our drive-in in Grand Bend. But yeah, didn't happen at the time, but maybe one day.
Well, and they only did the one show. I think they did was just the one over here. Is that right?
Yes, yes, it was just the one show, and, like, maybe we'll get into this later, but I remember throughout, like, the process of, like, documenting them planning for the drive-in show, a part of me was like, "Oh, is this gonna tour, like, all over, like, to every drive-in concert?" And then, like, I quickly realized that it's like, "Okay, no, this is very complicated, like, this isn't just, like, a touring, like, rock show at a venue kind of thing. It's like it's very complicated and it feel like it will only happen this one time. So that was really interesting.
Well, we're already talking. So, first of all, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I want to come back to complicated shows, but before we do that, I was wondering what excited you to tell this story. What brought you into the world of July Talk?
Yeah. Um yeah, so early on in like well what's felt like it was early on in the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 in the spring when like live music was completely shut down, like concerts were being canceled like left, right and center. It was a very scary time and yeah, I was just seeing all these cancellations constantly and then July Talk shared this poster for a drive-in concert and like I remember just like seeing it and just being like so like confused and also like excited and like very curious like what is this, what does it mean? I've never seen something like this before announced, and just like the feeling that I got when I received that news or saw it on my social media feed was just like nothing that I've ever experienced before. So I knew that this was something that I wanted to experience as a music fan, as a filmmaker, as a community member, like somebody who, works exclusively with musicians. Like my whole world was like turned upside down too during the pandemic, just like everyone else in their own stories. But I knew I wanted to be involved. And I didn't know exactly what that was going to entail, but I reached out to the band and just like expressed my gratitude and uh had an idea to come along for the ride and like document how this was going to unfold or what this was going to look like, and they welcomed me like pretty quickly and realized like that yeah, this was going to be something that is that there was no reference to like that this was like an unprecedented live music event, and they did see the value in documenting it and having me along for the ride. And yeah, I just I met up with them for the first site visit, So they invited me to come out to go scope out the site at the Stardust Drive-In Theater in Newmarket. And then from there, I just started to realize like the scale of the project that they were taking on and like how much it meant for this community of artists, July Talk and their community of people that they worked with, like, and just like the music community as a whole, and like how much it meant for everyone for to make this show possible. And yeah, it was a crazy ride. So documenting like the leading up to the concert and then being there actually at the concert was a very like, it felt very like historical and very unique for sure.
You know, it really is a special moment. Like there's something special about this moment, and as you see, I think it's Leah, right? Is Leah the lead, one of the lead
Yeah.
vocalists? Leah, sorry, is down and amidst these people who are separated. It feels like it matters, and but you know it's interesting because the COVID times are unprecedented, but I think the relationship to music and unprecedented times is interesting. I remember, this is going back. I remember SARS, and SARS stock here in Toronto was one of these things as well. It was sort of a signal for hope. I'm just wondering, for you being there in this moment, what was this concert signifying? What was it doing to help in the midst of this bizarre moment in our history?
Yeah. For sure. It was a very emotional ride. Like it felt as if the challenge, you had to go through such a um like a challenging time in order to get together. Like that was such a unique circumstance. It's like something that we take for granted as gathering or going to a concert, and just showing like how much of a challenge it was to make such a simple thing happen, but to do it in a very mindful and like safe way. Like that was always a priority. It's like they never, or like the community never wanted anybody to get hurt or to risk something like really terrible happening in the moment. So everything had to be so like intentional and carefully executed. And I just think that drive to push through these tough times in order to like gather, like really showed like how much it meant for the community to come together and for live music to happen in such a disheartening time. And no matter what, like we were going to be in it together and to help to make this show possible. So I thought that was really beautiful, and it just really kind of all taught us a lesson about like what do we like kind of value most, or we have this one valuable life, like what do we want to prioritize, and what are like creating moments that um where people can be together and to be safe and to experience something that we can all like um feel at home. And yeah, during that time it was just very difficult to have that sense of community and hope. And I think like when we were actually at the show, like it was just so, yeah, it was very emotional. Like it was like trying to relearn how to gather again too, but also like being safe at distances and like looking each other in the eye again was really challenging, and like being masked up, but like just like showing body language with each other, and kind of like giving each other air hugs and like thumbs up, and like just like experiencing, like having the human experience, like being such a new thing again, like just connecting was just such a different thing, but it was so special and extraordinary, how that all kind of unfolded at the drive-in. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things. I mean, you sort of talked about it already. I think Leia at one point says, "I want you to communicate through your cars."
Yeah. Yeah.
And what a wild, like, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, we've been through it now, but it sounds like it's such a unique way. Like it was like it looked like it was being together while being apart, and such a it looked like it was really bringing people together in powerful ways.
Yeah, yeah, and like, the July Talk, like they have such a reputation for touring like crazy and connecting with their fans, and they have such a close connection with their audiences. And like, in normal circumstances when you go to a July Talk show, like Leia is like reaching out and touching people and hugging people and going out in the audience, and just seeing like how they kind of interpreted that and like made it what it was in 2020, like how they were gonna like try to achieve the same connection with their fans but in a different way, like through the cars and like flashing lights and creating these really beautiful moments at the drive-in. It was just so cool and so inspiring and like very innovative.
This was one of the things I love about this doc is, I mean, the band plays their music and it's great and they're putting on the shows, but you also really get into the legacy of July Talk and you see the heart of Leia there, like you said, connecting with their fans. Um, but I'm just wondering for you what the legacy of July Talk truly is, because you see moments in this film. I mean, even the moment in the concert, I think that's 2016, and you're like just before everyone's talking about it, they are talking about issues of empowerment and whatnot. They're already doing it, and so many different ways they're sort of addressing these sort of social issues. I just wonder for you what the legacy of the band truly is.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like looked up to them early on when I started, like specifically started noticing the Love Lives Here signs. Like I had never seen something like that before at a venue, and it felt like it was like speaking to me personally, which was, yeah, such a new feeling, like, growing up working in the music community that felt like male dominated, and not necessarily like the most like kind of safe space to be in as a woman, or yeah, just seeing the band like setting out this statement on the walls of their venue like was just so like, yeah, so cool. And like I respected them so much for that. And yeah, it just felt like it was the start of something that should have been addressed maybe a long time ago. And I felt like it feels as if like a lot of bands like started to kind of follow in their footsteps too a little bit. There was more of like a conversation around issues like which I thought was really cool, and like to have like an open conversation about safer spaces at venues or at live shows. And um also just like, yeah, just what it means to be like inclusive at a rock show. So I thought that was really important. And I definitely wanted to touch upon it in the documentary because that is just such a quality in the band that I think like not only me, but like all music fans or lovers of the band like know about them, like their values within the music community is really important. And yeah, they do it in such a cool way. Like their shows too are obviously like explosive and rock and roll and iconic. Like their cinematic visuals, like all their music videos, like it's just, they really have this like identity that is very special and unique and like so timeless in my opinion. And it's just been such a fun band to keep an eye on like over the years and to be a fan of, and just be so like amazed at like all the cool things that they do. And they're also, they have a reputation for like taking on like really big projects. And like even their concerts, like there's always like some surprise. Like when they played at Massey Hall, they had this was in 2017 or 2016 when they played at Massey Hall. They had four sold out shows.
Mm.
They had this huge like balloon that was of the moon, and like Leia was like playing with it, and it was like lit up, and it was just like, again, like nothing that I've ever seen before. And that was just something that like they've always drew my attention, or drew me in because of like their amazing ideas and big ambitious ideas on what a rock and roll show looked like.
I love that because they really, even the fact that they do this show, you can see that they're willing to take some risks to create safe spaces, if you will. Like even the concert itself is a form of a safe space for them. Like that, like you talked about it in all these other ways, and this is them trying to, you know, in it I mean, it was only 3 years ago. In some ways, it feels like it was 50. In some ways, it feels it was like last week. But
Really?
this was a world looking for safe spaces, and they
Yeah.
create that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like we knew, yeah, like going in, like there was a lot of risk, but we, we were testing every day. Just I remember the first site visit, I was wearing these black like plastic gloves, latex gloves, and like was like double masked and like really had to like figure out like, okay, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna tell this story when like I can't feel my camera with my own hands, like my hands are sweating, like I can't see people's mouths, I can't like read their lips, that kind of thing. And like it was just like, okay, this is the time that we're living, like how do I incorporate that in like the narrative? Like how do we capture the challenges that we're facing, even to document the show, like how do we include that in the actual film? And I think a lot of those things actually ended up, yeah, like being very creative decisions and like how the film was made, like with a lot of audio like voiceovers and like phone conversations over the pandemic. Like as a filmmaker, I wouldn't have thought that I would be capturing stories like over the phone. Like I would, like my instinct would be to like, set up an interview, go and visit them at their homes. But I thought it was really important to like obviously be safe and to like document this moment in time through the film. So connecting over the phone and like not over Zoom, actually, because like Zoom was like we were like doing Zoom for like work meetings and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I want this to feel a little bit more personal. I want to do this over the phone where we can't see each other's faces. And like a lot of really like intense conversations started to unfold, and yeah, the challenges ended up being the best thing for the film and how it was made. So it was really interesting.
I love that. I love that. I really appreciate it. I mean, Brittany, I mean, we're running out of time. I just wanted to say thank you so much. The film is a joy, and a special chronicle of a very special and wild moment in our lives that you can see the band is really trying to make an impact in. So, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time to chat with you.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, anytime. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye. Thanks.
Bye bye. Thanks.